What's up, everyone? This video marks well, not really this video, but this year in 2026 marks 10 years of me uploading videos to YouTube. So, for those who don't know, I started uploading content in 2016, and what I wanted to do now, since it has been a decade, is kind of talk about why I started doing content, what has changed, and what are my expectations for the future. Like, what are my motivations, things of that nature. I wanted to make this video to give myself a little pat on the back, like, hey, you actually did something. In my opinion, anytime somebody does something for at least 10 years, I believe that's dedication. Like, 10 years in a relationship, 10 years at a job, 10 years with a hobby, which is what I consider this. I see those things as something that matters. That's a long time. That's dedication to one little thing, So I kind of want to just make this video to kind of just air out more or less like where I was, where I am. And I also want to highlight a couple of videos that were my personal favorites at the end. Stuff that I feel happy about, so you'll find out more or less what I enjoy as an audience of myself, I guess. So let's start from the beginning. Why did I start uploading content in the first place? So we're going to go back to 2016. I was on unemployment for the first time ever, collecting unemployment checks while I was looking for a new job. And I was donating plasma to kind of help make ends meet. I would say during that time frame, a friend of mine said, hey, you should do like live streams as a way to potentially make money. I immediately said no to that because I am not an entertainer at all. I'm kind of that boring instructor kind of guy, matter of fact kind of guy. I'm not the kind of like personality that people are going to want to watch do stuff live. Like, I'm just not that kind of guy. So because I don't see myself as an entertainer, I had zero interest in ever doing any kind of live streaming. But we talked about maybe me just doing stuff on YouTube. I figured, well, it could be a fun little project. I like playing games, so I could just kind of upload some game videos and stuff like that. Mostly for gotcha stuff, so it's easy to upload because I do it on my phone or my tablet, and just kind of go from there. And if I happen to make money, it would be kind of an added bonus. So that's kind of where my initial motivations were. It was something to do while I was on unemployment, and it was a potential chance to make money. Now, the whole money thing went out the window in 2017. For those who don't know, prior to 2017, if you wanted to make money, all you had to do was basically sign up for the creator program, make sure you had videos uploaded, and you were automatically approved. There was no quota, nothing like that. And then the way it was set up is once you had enough ad revenue to make a certain amount of money, we'll say like $100, then YouTube would pay you, basically. Well, that changed in 2017 because they actually changed their policy to where in order to start having ad revenue, you had to have a certain number of subscribers and a certain number of, minutes watched on your channel, which basically meant that I'm no longer making money because I'm not the kind of person to do all the kind of things that are necessary to get all the subs and all the views and all that mess. So I gave up on the whole money thing a long time ago, which is why I honestly don't care. And I see this as more of a hobby than a way to make money, because this channel is never going to make money, straight up. So with that out of the way, why did I continue to make videos despite knowing I was never going to make money? Well, as I said earlier, this is kind of a hobby. Like, I enjoy sharing the games that I'm enjoying, especially specifically on mobile. I have been kind of on occasions making videos talking about, like, my Switch or whatnot, but that's kind of rare. Or maybe just making topical discussions about what's going on in the game industry, but again, that's extremely rare. This channel mainly focuses on like gotcha games, like mobile RPGs, card games, stuff like that. That's mainly what this channel is about, and I enjoy doing this, and I don't feel much pressure in doing it. So as long as I'm having fun, I figure why not, and that's basically where my head was at the time. It's like, I don't mind doing this, and I'm okay with not getting paid. And by the time 2017 hit, I already had a job again, so the money thing just didn't really matter because I have a job where I can make money. So this is kind of whatever. So that's kind of like the start of, what got me into making content. Now, when I first started making content, I basically, if we go to my playlist, I started off actually making content for Heroes Charge, Seven Knights, and Hearthstone. Like that was kind of where everything started for me. Is Heroes Charge was kind of the game that I was featuring the most on my channel. They were the kind of videos that I put a little more effort into as far as talking about like characters and what's going on with the game, stuff like that. Although I guess at the same time I was kind of putting a bit of effort into Hearthstone. I was basically doing commentary on, how I was playing the game, what was my thought behind the cards that I'm playing, what reactions I had. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not really thrilled with my Hearthstone content. Like I've actually considered deleting that playlist altogether, but I thought no, like this was a big part of my early days of uploading content. I'll just keep it there as just kind of a history marker. But Heroes Charge, I think, is where I was kind of thriving the most in the beginning. I had more of an audience there, and I just enjoyed doing it. As far as Seven Nights, I really didn't get many views on Seven Nights at all, but it was a game I was enjoying, and I was, enjoying making content for it. The original idea was to upload content for each of these games at least once a week. Don't think I was able to do that exactly for all three, but I was uploading content regularly, and I was having fun. I didn't feel pressured, really, for the most part, and especially when I wasn't working. Now, when I finally got my job, like after the summer ended, I got to the point where I wasn't uploading as often because I didn't have as much time to make content. I got a full-time job, and of course I had, having a girlfriend and having to dedicate time elsewhere. There was not really as much time to make content, so I wasn't uploading as often, but I was still enjoying it whenever I did. And that's kind of where I'm at. As a matter of fact, with Heroes Charge, that's the game that started getting me actual subscribers. I think that was the community that was really supporting me the most in the early days. So I'd say about maybe half my subscribers came from Heroes Charge, if I'm being honest. Like Hearthstone, nobody cared, to be honest, because like card games are already a niche, and unless you're like an established creator, you're just not going to go anywhere. And Seven Nights, nobody cared about my content, really. I'm just going to be real. But, I had a handful of views here and there. So you can ignore Epic Cards Battle. I really didn't make much content for that game. It was just kind of an early test thing. And it was a game I was enjoying, but I don't know. At the time, I just didn't think of any fun ideas to make content on that game, which is why I didn't really make many videos on it. And then if we go kind of fast forward a bit, I did start playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links for a while. I didn't play it very long though, and I don't know, making content for it probably felt awkward. I can't really even remember what I was doing for the most part with it, but it was very short-lived. Now my Let's Demo playlist, I actually feel pretty decent about that. That was something I started doing maybe after a year or two of doing content. If I ever wanted to start playing a new game, I would do like a Let's Demo video of it. Not necessarily guaranteeing that I would make content regularly on it, but those are videos that I like doing just to kind of say, hey, there's a new game out, I'm trying it out, here are my first impressions. That's kind of what ended up happening. Now, FF15 A New Empire. So I didn't make a lot of content on this game, but I think the content that I made were like really long videos. They were like, I think, half an hour videos, basically just talking about where I was at in the game. For those who don't know, FF15 A New Empire was a war game, kind of. If you're familiar with the game Aegis, it was like a text-based war game where people basically kind of typed out, their bases and stuff, and had like their guilds or whatever, and they could attack each other, stuff like that. Think of that, but actually being able to visually see what's going on. So basically, you had your own base, and you were building like facilities here and there, and then you would join a guild, and you'd have like your own kind of like group base together, and you could basically attack other bases and basically start a war, more or less. That was kind of what that was. I eventually stopped playing this game because I honestly thought the game was financially greedy. It kind of made me upset, and when a game does like financial stuff that I don't like, I will stop sort of supporting them financially, and if it's bad enough, I'll quit the game. Part of the things that made me upset about this game particularly was there were certain events that they had like for the weekend, but in order to participate in the event, you had to pay $100. So it was like $100 cover charge just to participate in an event. I thought that was bullshit. It's like, you mean the rest of us who are just playing the game can't even participate because we didn't pay $100 cover fee? I thought that was lame as. It was just really bad. So yeah, once I saw that as a trend, I was like, you know what, this game isn't for me anymore, and I dropped the game altogether. That's what it boiled down to. I just wasn't having fun anymore. Like, I thought the idea of the game was a really cool idea, but the way that it was implemented, especially with their monetization practices, I just didn't agree with it. So I dropped it. So as you can tell, eventually in my YouTube career, I more or less started transitioning from certain games to others because, eventually you kind of get bored of a game and you want to move on. So FF15 was a game I moved on to eventually, and I also moved on to Shadowverse. I stopped playing Hearthstone and moved over to Shadowverse. So to give you kind of context on the whole card gaming front, is I've been enjoying card games for a long time, probably since like the early 2000s. But, physical card gaming is very expensive, and I just got to the point where I couldn't afford it. So I decided eventually that I was just going to play some free-to-play card games. And Hearthstone was like one of the ones I was getting into. But I also got into Shadowverse, which in my opinion is like the best of all card games on like, mobile. So as you can tell, I did a lot of videos on Shadowverse. The only reason I really stopped doing content for them is because they basically weren't really making new cards anymore because they were focused on making their sequel. So there was no point in really making content after a while. And eventually the game was going to be into service. So, that's another thing. But I'll be honest, like, of all like the type of videos that I made, I actually like my Shadowverse content the most. Specifically, there's if you go up a little bit, there's one called Shadowverse versus Music. This is my favorite playlist of all time. It was basically no commentary. It was just a match with another person with video game music that I basically spliced onto it. Really, really fun videos to make. So yeah, I was really happy about these kind of videos. As a matter of fact, one of the two videos that I'm going to be highlighting as some of my favorites will come from this particular playlist. I honestly just enjoyed making that content more than anything else. Like, as a matter of fact, even to this day, sometimes when I'm in the mood, I'll actually go through that playlist, Shadowverse versus Music, and just kind of like go through that. Now, obviously, the quality is not the best because I didn't really know how to, and I still don't know how to actually properly splice music into content, but I figured out a way to do it in a way that worked out best for me anyway. So it's not perfect, but it's what I can do. I'm not the best when it comes to technology, so, I was very limited and I didn't really learn how to do a lot of things that I could have done, like editing and all that stuff. Oh, and also, that's at the same time I was really doing Shadowverse videos, I started doing Last Claudia content as well. I've done a ton of videos on Last Claudia, as you can see, a little over 150, which is kind of crazy. It's a game that I still play to this day, believe it or not. I don't make a lot of content on it directly now, just because back when I was making content for it, I kind of pressured myself into doing content every time a new character dropped, and it had to be like day one or the next day. And I don't like putting pressure on myself like that. Feeling obligated to tell you, like, should you pull for this character or not, what's good about it, especially since unfortunately there was a lot that I didn't understand about this game as I was talking about it. There were just certain skills that I misunderstood. There were just a lot of issues I had when it came to making content on this game. Eventually I started to understand better, but by then it was kind of too late and people were kind of tuning out. But at the same time, I got to the point to where there were certain things I wasn't really happy about with the game as well. Like, I don't really like the gacha structure at all, and there were things I liked and didn't like. That it was kind of like a love-hate relationship that I kind of have with this game. But overall, I like the game, which is why I still play it. But I just don't feel the motivation to make content on it anymore. Eventually, like, I'll add stuff for this game in my mobile gaming monthly thing that I do when I just talk about mobile games in general once a month. If there's like a collab that I want to briefly talk about, I'll bring it up there. But I don't really like doing content specific for Last Cloudy anymore. But I was dedicated to making content for this game for a while, and I was able to get a decent number of subscribers from playing this game. So there are a few people out there that actually like my Last Cloudy content, and I appreciate that. And it was fun to make for a while. And then we move on up a little more. I did like very little content for Seven Nights 2. I genuinely liked the game, but it was super difficult. It got to the point to where like grinding for certain things I needed was kind of a tedious task. And I don't know. It was a great game, I think, but there were some things that could have made it better. And so we'll just move on from that. Not much, and I didn't know really what to do other than like PvP stuff for the most part. Honkai Star Rail, I like the game a lot, but I don't really make a lot of content on it, mainly because I like to upload videos that are kind of like in-game stuff, like certain bosses. But what I've been enjoying doing lately is uploading content relating to Currency Wars. It's kind of their roguelike mode that I really, really enjoy. So if I find like a different team that I put together that does well in hard difficulty, I'll upload a video on it on occasion. It's basically no commentary and just me playing the game. I don't really do a lot of commentary on Star Rail. It's mostly just gameplay, and I kind of like that, So that's kind of what that is. Worlds Beyond. Oh, actually, hold on. Let me go back. 2017, I went to what's called Video Games Live, and I actually recorded some of the songs that were played. I didn't upload all of them. I don't know why. I only uploaded 2 apparently, but it was the best thing I've ever been to, like as far as a public event. Like I've been to like anime conventions. I've been to like, I think it was PAX South one time. And I've been to like, a couple of other public events, but Video Games Live was the best event that I've ever been to. Now, for those who don't know what this is imagine going to a symphony that was playing video game music. Like you're seeing people with guitars, drums, flutes, all kinds of instruments, all types of stuff in person in a concert, just playing like Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Super Mario Brothers, and other games. Seeing it live, that was the best experience of my entire life. Like that's the one thing that I can say that I enjoyed the most. I went to it one time with a friend of mine. Basically, at this time, me and a friend were doing a podcast together about video games in general. And there was like 2 people, I think, that donated a little bit of money to help us pay for our trip. So I paid a little bit into it myself because they paid for like the cost of the tickets themselves, but there are some extra fees that come with these kind of things. So I went out of pocket for that basically. And then me and my friend went to this, and it was such a good time. I loved it. And I recorded like, I think it was like 4 or 5 different things I recorded. There was like a Final Fantasy one, Zelda, Mario, Chrono Cross, and maybe one other, but I didn't upload them all here. Maybe one day I'll upload it and add it to the playlist. We'll see. But yeah, it was like one of the best experiences of my entire life, which is why I uploaded at least a couple of these on here. It was really, really cool. Uh, Not the best quality, but it was still a lot of fun. But anyway, moving right along. Uh, Shadowverse Wolves Beyond, I did a little bit of content on this, but it was difficult to make content because it was very difficult to get cards as a budget player. So I was basically playing with a bunch of decks that were incomplete, and I don't like that because then I'm kind of playing half-assed, and I don't like making content half-assed when it comes to like something I'm trying to be competitive in. So that's ultimately why I I just stopped playing the game and making content for it. It just wasn't worth my time, and I wasn't willing to spend the kind of money I would need to spend to constantly make content. Again, I don't make money doing this anyway, and most of the money that I make goes to paying bills and stuff, and I'm not willing to spend money to make content. It's just not worth it to me. It'd be one thing if I was making extra money, but I'm not, so no. I also started playing the Theory of Restart, so we're now jumping over to like the 2020s basically. Ethereum Restart, I still make videos on. I like the game a lot. Seven Nights Rebirth, I played it for a while, but I quit eventually because it just wasn't the same, more or less. I've made videos talking about how I feel about it, so I'm not going to go into it here. I've recently started doing mobile game reviews now. These are kind of videos that I enjoy making too because I'm actually playing the game for a long period of time and then kind of talking about it. But I'm not the kind of person who likes to review a game within the first month because I feel like that's not really long enough to know what their patterns are going to be. That's why I wait 6 months before I release a video like that, because you'll be able to see more of their trends. You know, what is the content structure really going to be like? Is the gameplay fun? Are they adding some good gameplay modes? How was the music overall? Like, you know, I want to be able to say, okay, is this game worth playing long term? That's kind of the point. Not a first impression, because that doesn't really tell you anything. A first impression can be very deceiving, because I feel like when you're doing a first impression, game devs are going to do everything they can to get as many people in as possible. So the game is going to look very generous and all this kind of stuff, which is very misleading. So I wait 6 months so I can know how they're really going to be, so I can tell you if you really should consider it. And then my newest video games series that I'm doing is my gaming roundup, where I basically just talk about like how I feel about gaming in that month. Are there new games that I've been playing that I haven't really been highlighting on my channel? Are there things outside of gacha games that I want to talk about, like, you know, something about the Nintendo Switch or like gaming news in general? It's kind of something that I've been kind of tinkering with a little bit. It's kind of new. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to structure this, but it's something new that I'm trying, and it seems kind of fun. So that's kind of where I'm at now as far as like the content that I'm doing. So as far as like the future of the channel, I don't see anything like dramatic happening anytime soon. As long as I feel motivated and there's something I want to do for the channel, I'll just continue to do it. Again, not a money making channel, so money's not the motivator. But as long as I continue to do what I do, and if there's a handful of people that are still actually watching my videos, then it's worth doing as far as I'm concerned. So that's kind of where I'm at now. That and my motivations at this point, and this is kind of a new thing that I've discovered this year, is that I've kind of put my attitude more towards making this more a documentary on my like gaming life in terms of like gacha games and sometimes what I'm playing on the Switch. That's kind of where I want to start pivoting to going forward, is just being more of a documentary for myself, because there's going to be a day where I'm not going to be able to upload content. Maybe my medical situation will get worse, or you know, I just lose motivation. I decide, you know what, it's not worth my time anymore. And once I get to that point, I can just go back and say, you know, hey, this is what I was doing this year, and here's what it was, you know, stuff like that. Here are the games that, you know, I enjoyed. oh, this is a fun video to watch, stuff like that. It's kind of one of those things. As a matter of fact, there is kind of something I want to bring up real quick. Let me go back to my Shadowverse versus Music playlist. I want to talk about why I made this particular playlist. So, one thing that I always wanted to see was a creator make content as far as, showing a card game. But in that match, I wanted to see like different music added to it, like a video game soundtrack or an anime soundtrack or something in the background while these matches are happening. Unfortunately, that's not the kind of content that really existed on a large scale. There were like a handful of creators that had made like maybe 2 or 3 videos like that, but it wasn't like a normal thing. And the way that I see it, if there's something that you want that no one else is doing, create it yourself. And that's kind of what I did with Shadowverse versus Music. Is I saw an idea that I wish other people would do, and since they weren't doing it, I was the one to do it. And that's part of the reason why this is one of my favorite playlists, is because it was something that I wish other people did, and so I did it myself. Obviously not with the best quality, because I'm not as knowledgeable with all the tech and all that either, but at least I got it done, right? It's whether I complain about it or do something about it, and I did something about it, which is why it's my favorite playlist, and it's going to be one of the videos that I'm going to obviously be highlighting at the end. And also, side note, for Last Claudia, there is one video that I'm going to also highlight here that's one of my favorites. So, when Last Claudia's early years, I was super competitive in their time trial rankings. And anytime I was able to make top 30, because that was always the goal, you make top 30, you're basically in their Hall of Fame for that event. And that was always a goal. So, you know, one of the times that I made top 30, I put a lot of effort into it, and I'm honestly genuinely proud of it. And, so I'm going to highlight one of those videos as well, just because, I think it's just something that was really fun to do. I was really proud of it, and it's the kind of content that I wanted to make more often that unfortunately I didn't really make a lot of. I didn't do a lot of time trial ranking videos, and I kind of wish I did. But I would say that those were kind of like my favorite things to do. I'm not as competitive as I used to be. Like in the early days of just gotcha gaming in general, I was highly competitive. And I'm talking way back to Blood Brothers, before I was even making content. I was all about the meta, knowing what characters were the best. I even had like spreadsheets with character names, damage potentials, and all kinds of just stuff. Like that's how hardcore I used to be when it came to like being like top ranking in certain things. But as the years progressed, I became a little more casual, and I generally just stopped caring about the meta. That's why when it comes to like PvP stuff, I'll still participate, but I'm not as like hardcore into it anymore. I just build the characters I like. I do the best I can with them, and then I throw them in PvP. And if they win, they win. If they don't, they don't. There's no pressure, right? And speaking of pressure, when I was making Last Claudia content, I was kind of pressured for a while of constantly uploading content for new characters and stuff like that. But eventually I got to the point to where the pressure wasn't worth it. I think what slowed me down the most as far as making content and like being like super duper hardcore was in 2022 when I was in the hospital for a bit. So basically I had high blood pressure, hardcore high, like almost in the 300s. I was in ICU for a bit, and then I also found out that I had kidney failure at the same time. So once all that started happening, I took a break from content creation and gaming in general. I basically spent a few months just kind of like figuring out what's going to happen in my life now that some dramatic things were going on. So I kind of took a break from everything for a while until I was mentally ready to continue again. So I took a break from content creation once I knew like what my schedule was going to be for dialysis and work and all that. And eventually started making content again, but I became more relaxed, more just casual and just having fun and not really caring about being competitive. I just wanted to have fun at that point. And that's why I don't upload videos as much, because, it's only when I feel like it now. I don't feel the need to constantly, make videos and stuff like that. I just do it when I want to. and there's less stress. You know, I'm not making money anyway, so why stress myself out? You know what I mean? Like, so that I made a dramatic change after that. So, you know, that's partially why things are a little different than they were back in the past. But yeah, like I used to be competitive. I'm no longer competitive. I just collect and have fun. And that's kind of where the tone and my motivations are now. It's more of a documentary, it's more relaxing, it's just more chill. So now that I've kind of talked about like my history, where I was at then, where I'm at now, what's the future gonna hold, which isn't really a lot, it's just gonna be the same old stuff. Um, I want to highlight two videos that I'm particularly proud of myself. So let's go with the one that's the easiest to find, which is going to be my Shadowverse versus music. So I need to go down a little bit. We're going to play the whole video, not the entire playlist, just a certain video. Because I really like this playlist overall. It's my favorite content, period. Now, obviously, these are a lot older videos, as you can tell, 7 years ago. Um, but these are the videos that I enjoyed the most. Even if I don't get a ton of views, if it's something that I like and I can go back and watch, that's what matters more than anything else. And if there's other people who actually like it, that's more of an added bonus. But yeah, what these videos are basically is just, you know, a deck that I'm playing versus a deck somebody else is playing with a video game song in the background. Or an anime song. Although there wasn't a lot of anime that I put into it. I think there's only like one, maybe two matches that have an anime song on it. The rest of it are just video game stuff. But there are certain matches in particular that I really enjoyed, and the song was just kind of like really, really nice and fitting to me. Like in my brain, I'm like, yes, this is like peak. You know, even if nobody else sees it that way, if it makes my brain happy, that's ultimately what matters. There's actually two videos. I'm only going to highlight one because I actually like my City of Gold versus Spell Boost, and I also like my Destruction Paragraph versus Machina. So for those of you that are card game nerds, this is like Shadowverse. So if you're not really into card games, you're not going to care about this part in particular. But I'm going to show this off anyway. Um, Kind of debating which one I want to show off. But basically, when I play card games, I like to play combo decks. Basically, I spend a few turns setting up, and then I eventually like do combos that'll either clear the board or deal massive amounts of damage. Sometimes resulting in an OTK. That's kind of like the playstyle that I enjoy the most when I play card games. And both of these decks that I'm playing was Destruction Portal and City of Gold. These were like the two decks I was doing really well with that I had a lot of fun with. Um, I think in terms of music, I like the Destruction one the best. But as far as like high competitive stuff, the City of Gold one is the best. But I'm gonna play the Destruction one because it's just one of my favorites. So let's go ahead and just watch this video. Am I ever going to pause during the video? I don't know. We'll see. I'm doing this basically off the cuff, so let's do it. All right, I'm going to pause it real quick. So the 4-cost card in my hand is part of a win condition. Basically, when you play her, you can evolve her. You would get like this indestructible artifact that gains you 2 life every turn. But once you play that, you get an artifact in your hand that costs 10. And the more stuff that dies, the less it ends up costing. And if you play it, everything takes 10 damage, including the player. At the end of each turn. So that's kind of what the combo is, or what one of the win conditions are. The 1-cost card is part of a combo. You play it, and every time I play, I think it was like an artifact card, I would draw a card and get a play point. So it's like a thing that constantly cycles. So you can use that to basically wipe the board by throwing a bunch of cards that have Rush or Storm, or just deal tons of damage. What you could also do is there's another win condition that I haven't drawn yet, where whenever you evolve it, it gives +1 attack for every card or every monster card that died on your side. So you sacrifice a lot of cards to wipe the board, and then that turns into more damage for an OTK later on. All right, let's continue. So right now I'm just setting up my combos. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm putting artifacts in the deck, and then I'm using cards to basically put those artifacts in my hand to save up for the combo. So I'm trying to get artifacts in my hand so that at a later turn I can play that 1-cost spell that I started off with, and then play a bunch of artifacts and just basically keep cycling and cycling and cycling. So you'll see that here in a few turns. I'll translate. What he meant to say was initiating ass whooping protocol. I thought that was a fun joke, so there you go. Okay, so now that I've evolved that 4-cost, that's the start of a win condition. So there was an artifact that got put in my hand that cost 10. Now, every time something on my side dies, it lowers the cost of that amulet. So once it gets cheaper, I can play it potentially for free or a lot less, and then it'll spawn another card in my hand that'll become the actual win condition. Just wanted to kind of explain that. So it's going to cost 10, but as you see my cards die, it will start costing less and less. Okay, I have to explain this particular card that has a 3 timer on it. So basically it'll stay on for 3 turns. What this does is whenever I play an artifact, it'll automatically give it rush, which means it can attack a follower on the same turn, and it'll increase my count of like the. Basically, whenever you play something that costs a play point, it'll increase my play points by 1 so I can keep cycling over and over. So it's the start of a combo. It's like the stage 1, basically.
Take yourself back. Don't give it fire. This is the landing. I travel in search of the unknown.
Alright, I'm going to pause again. There was a card that cost 3 that I just drew. That's going to be on the very right side on the bottom. Basically, that's the card that when you evolve it, it gets +1 for every card or every follower that I had that died this game, the entire game. So that's why I'm going to be constantly ramming my cards into their followers instead to wipe the board from keeping myself from taking damage, and it's helping an OTK combo for later. Okay, that 1-cost spell that I just played, that was a card the one cost spell that I had at the beginning of the game. What it basically does is every time I play an artifact, I gain 1 play point. So basically, I play one cost for free, and every time I play an artifact, I draw a card. I forgot to mention that earlier. So I'm constantly drawing and playing stuff for free. Basically, is what this does. It's basically the combo where I basically flood my board with a bunch of stuff, ram my small stuff into their stuff, making my winning condition cost less, and it's just like a big combo. So this isn't going to be the OTK turn. This is a combo that kind of like sets things up for a later combo. Okay, so I played that artifact because obviously the cost was down enough for me to justify playing it, and because it's considered an artifact, I still get more play points because of the spell I played and the amulet that's in play, and I'll get to draw a card. On top of that, now I have the 10 cost, which is an actual win condition, where if I do end up playing it, it'll deal 10 damage to everything at the end of each of my. No, I think it might be at the beginning of their turn. I'm sorry, is when it happens. But it's going to first cost 10, but as things are dying, it's going to cost less and less. So again, it's part of the combo. So that turn right there, I was able to draw a bunch of cards, play a bunch of stuff, let them die, and help my win condition, start costing less and getting things set up. So this particular combo is a good way to wipe the board and to constantly draw cards, get to your win condition, all kinds of stuff. All right, getting the combo set up again. I should explain what my opponent's been doing. So this is the class called Runecraft. They're well known for playing multiple spells at a turn. Basically, there's a mechanic called Spell Boost, where every time you play a spell, cards in your hand cost 1 less. And so the more you're playing these 1-cost spells, the cheaper some of your spells end up costing. And also, you have characters who also cost less that have spell boost as well. So you're going to eventually be able to play a bunch of spells, play a bunch of followers, all for free, or for like 1 cost or whatever. That's what Runecraft is well known for. They're, in my opinion, they're the class that gets the best treatment overall. There are just so many ridiculous combos and win conditions that come through spell boost, and they're very good at controlling the board. So even though like they're constantly killing my cards, that's kind of what I want. So what they're strong at becomes their weakness, because they're basically feeding into what I'm trying to do by basically doing the work for me. So that kind of works out in my favor, but it was still a difficult deck to beat. Like, I wasn't constantly winning 100% of the time against this deck. I just happened to get this one because things worked out for me. But that's basically their whole purpose, is to play a bunch of spells for free or for a lot less, and constantly wipe the board and deal you damage.
of the unknown. Eradicate all! Everything but the truth!
All right, so this is the big combo turn. So I played the one cost spell that every time I play an artifact, I draw a card. And then, of course, whenever I play an artifact, I get a play point. And then that amulet that has 2 on it, or yeah, that has a 2 on the bottom right of it, every time I play an artifact, I basically gain a play point. So basically, I'm getting 2 play points every time I play an artifact, and I'm drawing a card. That's basically what's happening. Oh, and then they all get rush, even if they don't have it. And of course, rush meaning I can attack a follower or an enemy card the same time I play it. So this is the big combo. Now the card that's a 2/3 right there, that's the card that whenever I evolve it, you get like a spell in your hand, and when you play it on her, she gets +1 for every card that died, or every follower that basically died, whether it be by them killing it or me killing it myself by clearing the board. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to play a bunch of artifacts, draw a bunch of cards, and the idea is to evolve her and then just get the OTK. It'll be able to deal at least 20 damage. Now, the person is going to forfeit before the combo completely goes off, but you'll see the idea here. And I'm also going to play the big artifact that deals 10 damage at the end of a turn as well, because right now it only costs 1. I've already lowered it from costing 10 to costing 1, and it'll cost 0 by the time I play it. Win condition right there. And of course they forfeit. So yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and back up here. You don't need to see the whole I win thing, like we already know that I won. But yeah, that's one of my favorite videos that I've uploaded. Again, it's a song from Final Fantasy VIII. Mix will be playing the card game itself. And the way that I made it work was that, as far as the game, I turned the music off. All thing I keep is just like the sound effects and the voice acting, and then I basically put some music in the background via a couple of different ways, and that ends up becoming the video. These are like my favorite videos of all time. If Shadowverse was going to stay open, like, you know, forever, and there will still be people playing, I would consider doing this again. But, you know, it's just not a thing right now. I think I'm going to play the City of Gold one, but I'm not going to do it yet. I want to highlight one more video that's on here. I don't know if I put it in the playlist. We'll find out, I guess. It's in my, let me see. It's in my Last Claudia list. The problem is there's over 100 videos. So rather than try to do that, I think I'm just going to search for it. Let's see if I can just do it that way. I may have to search. Let's do MCC time trial. And see if we can't find it. Yeah, this is it right here. So this is a video that I uploaded 4 years ago. Now, what I'm going to say is that when I uploaded this video, I did get a claim on it because the music that's in the background is from a video game called, it was a collab with, oh, what's it called? I don't forgot already. Oh, Nier Automata, that's what it's called. And so what they used to do in Last Claudia, and they still do it now, is that whenever they have a collab, they will have music from the collab in the game itself. So I didn't splice any music into it. This came naturally from the game itself. But I'm very proud of this video because it was one of the early years of Last Claudia where I made top 30, and I put in a lot of effort to basically get to top 30 and do well enough. And this was back when, for those of you who remember Last Claudia, the collab used to be where you would have 3 different teams of 4, and you would have to build. So you had to build 3 different teams with like different characters, different arcs, and you had to do the best you could to get the best time, basically winning as fast as you could. And there was lots of different strategies, and back then time stop was a pretty big deal, so there were a lot of time stop strats. What time stop means is whenever you do an ability, the clock timer doesn't move at all, so you get to basically do stuff for free. So you activate a character special, stops the clock, deal lots of more damage. You activate like a UR arcs ability, time stops, and you deal lots of more damage. That's basically what that was. So there were certain characters and arcs that could take advantage of time stop abilities, and that would help you get a better time. Now, in this time, could I have done better? Yes. But what I will say is that there were certain abilities I didn't have access to because I wasn't lucky enough to pull the right arc to have a certain ability or a certain spell that would have made things 10 times better. So that's why it's not the best that anyone could have done. Obviously, I wasn't number 1, right? But it was good enough to make top 30, and honestly, I was genuinely proud of it. Now, it did get acclaim because of the music. Obviously, I didn't care because I'm not making money anyway, so why do I give a crap about it? So yeah, if I ever make money, cool, you can take it, but I'm never gonna make money. You ain't gonna worry about it. So there's a chance that I may get claimed again if it's still like under whatever it is, but I don't care. So we're just gonna play the video, and you can see another video that I'm very proud of. Let's start it over. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to first do before continuing the video, here's the team I'm playing. This is Summer Alice. I forgot the second one's name. Bayland, and then I forgot the fourth one's name. But basically, the strategy here is that Summer Alice is going to use her skills to basically immediately teleport basically to the enemy and deal damage, and she's very fast. So her whole point is just says basically zip back and forth, hitting all of the spawns, getting knocked out while everybody else kind of supports. The second character has like a passive, I think, that increases like your damage cap. Balin also increases damage cap. And then the one on the very right is going to be the main damage dealer in the second phase where I have to fight the boss, because she's a single wielding character, and if you have a good single wielder, they can deal tons of damage. But the phase 1 strat is just to use Alice to basically teleport and deal tons of damage to all the spawns as they spawn in, while gaining some like SCT to continue to do her skill 1 and her skill 2. I try my best to avoid using her skill 3 because it takes too long to activate, so you're going to lose time by doing that. So I'm basically using her first and second skills only to basically make it to where everything dies faster. So there you go, that was phase 1. It's basically Summer Alice is going to town. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to start out by doing her S3 because I'm not going to be using her anymore, so she's going to basically be doing her own thing. I'm going to be switching to the fourth character, and she's going to be using a lot of single will damage to beat down the boss. I'm also going to use an arc skill that's going to deal some free damage. It doesn't deal a lot, but if it's time stop, any damage is damage. That's going to help you get a better time. But the arc that I had wasn't leveled up enough to deal like the maximum amount of damage, but it was good enough for what I had, basically. But yeah, we're going to be switching to the fourth character. She's going to be basically targeting the boss and just beating it down as best as you can. You're going to see the light bar at the top just kind of start going down dramatically. It's going to be nice. Now for the second team. Okay, now I'm going to explain the strats that I did for the second team. So we are looking at A2, Lilibet with her very first shift, I believe. Zekis with his very first shift, and then Roy from Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, so the idea in round one is Zekis is going to be basically casting like thunder spells to deal with these machines as they're weak to thunder. So he's going to be providing that kind of support. Lilibet is basically just going to be DPSing, same with A2, but I'm going to be focusing on using Roy because his third skill can basically do some like it'll target something, but the damage will kind of spreading into others. Now you're gonna see me move Roy to like a corner because enemies can spawn in different locations on the map. So if I park him like in a corner, whenever he does his S3, it will be able to easily hit the enemy and any other enemies around it, and it'll push the enemy into other enemies so that the splash damage could reach them. That was kind of the logic into this team. Now, as far as spamming Roy's S3, he has a unique mechanic where even though I have no skill stocks to use his S3, you can use MP instead of skill stocks, and you can constantly do it until his MP is out. So that's how I'm able to constantly spam this ability. I basically gave him as much MP as possible, which is why you see him having over 900 MP. And I did some damage boosting stuff in the background too, but you know, that's like passive stuff. But basically the point is to park him in a corner and let him deal some splash damage to everything. And just like that, it's over. Okay, so I'm going to explain this because this is going to be a bit weird and different. So with Roy, you're going to notice me not necessarily pausing, but basically I'm going to be bringing up the menu and targeting a certain mech. Because it's going to naturally try to target the boss. So you don't want to target the boss with them. You want to get rid of the ads first. So I don't remember if I move him again, but I may move him. But if I don't, I'm probably just going to be targeting a specific enemy using his third skill to kind of hit everything, and then until it's just the boss. What's going to happen is I'm going to be switching over to A2 because she's another single-willed character that's going to deal massive damage, and but I'm also going to be using a UR arc skill. Now, something that I learned when I was constantly testing this over and over to try to find good strats to beat the boss, there was a UR skill that I had maxed out that when used deals massive damage to this boss. So once you see the arc skill activate, you're going to notice the light bar just get destroyed. And then I'll also use A2 special because again, special stop the time. So it's going to deal some damage, and also the arc skill is going to stop time as well and deal massive damage. So you'll see how this kind of works out here on the second phase of the second group. So I move him to the ability. Pads are dead. Aim is broken. Special. Arc skill. Look at that art right there. Oh, look at all that. God, that was like super duper good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about my strat here. First off, the last three characters don't really matter much. It's more the passives on two of the arcs that are important. One of them will lower some of the enemy stats. The other one will increase my SCT at the beginning, but it won't be enough. It's the very first character is the one that matters. She's the one that's going to be, well, the arc that she has equipped is going to stop time to where she can just constantly spam skills. There is a spell called Honey Elixir that existed where you could just max out her skills so you can constantly spam. I didn't have this spell in my account. I wasn't lucky enough to get the arc. So I had to kind of wing it and let everything charge naturally, which is why this is not as a fast fight as I would have liked for it to have been. But, you know, it was there. But yeah, the other three characters were more or less throwaways. They have some passes that can, you know, increase my damage, but I was able to reach damage cap, so, you know, not a big deal. They didn't really do a lot of contributing here. It was only just a single character doing all the work. Okay, let's take a look. Skill. Nice on my special. Special time stop. Special again, time stop. But yeah, that's basically it. Is again, I was running low on skill stocks, which is why I wasn't as fast as it could have been. I didn't have the spells necessary to increase your skill stocks and all the best abilities on that I could have used, only because I just didn't have them. But it was good enough to get top 30 with the strats that I put together overall. But yeah, I'm very, very proud of this video. This is back when I was competitive. And like I put a lot of effort. As a matter of fact, there's a friend of mine who I kept sending video clips of my strats to. I probably was annoying the crap out of him, and if I did annoy you, I'm sorry. I was just super duper hardcore taking it seriously, and you know, I was learning new things as we went along, and he was asking me questions, giving feedback as well. And this is kind of the end result of this. There's just a lot of effort put into it, and I'm very proud of this and how well it did. I guess we'll just see what the numbers look like at the end. The arcs I used, and this is my times right here. So now in this recording, I actually bested my party 2's time because I found like some awesome strats. Like my second squad was just hardcore. Everything that I wanted to happen could happen. My first team, I think, did a great job. I did have a couple of hiccups where my main DPS was kind of stuttered a little bit and like stunned, but For the most part, they did what they needed to do, and I'm not really upset at it. The third one, even though it says less than a second, um, it could have been like better in execution, but it was still good enough. But yeah, that's basically what this was. It was a new record, and it was good enough to get me the top 30, and I am very proud of that. When you put in a lot of effort towards something and you get like a good ranking where it can be seen like in the Hall of Fame or something like that, that was important to me. Like when you're competitive, that's the kind of stuff matters. Now, when it comes to time trial type stuff, I'm not as competitive as I used to be. I just participate and move on, but I don't take it seriously anymore. But yeah, I used to be hardcore competitive in this, and anytime I made top 30, I was proud of it. Oh yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and back out of this. Okay. Let me go back to my channel here. I am going to go ahead and show an extra video that I wasn't planning on showing because on the Shadowverse front, there were actually two of those that I really, really liked. So I'm going to show the second one. As you can tell, I'm more proud of my card gaming videos than my actual gacha videos, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to show off City of Gold versus Spell Boost, and then after this, I'll basically end the video. Um, Again, this is another one of those videos where I have like a video game song attached to gameplay. The song is going to be from Star Fox 64, which is like my favorite N64 game of all time. Shout outs to the remake that came out on the Switch. But yeah, so it's going to have one of the songs from there. But the match itself is what's the most interesting because I ended up at the end being down to one before the opponent gives up because this is the unlimited format where basically you can use any card you want. Now, there are some like cards that were banned or limited to one, but basically I'm playing a deck called City of Gold versus a deck called Spell Boost. Spell Boost in unlimited is basically broken. They play a bunch of cards for free. They take a bunch of extra turns for free. It's just ridiculous and not fair. However, the City of Gold deck I was playing, and by the way, the main card itself got nerfed. Now the nerf didn't happen because of unlimited; it actually happened because of standard. But not going to get into that here. So back when City of Gold used to be top tier, and I was basically making my rank skyrocket. Um, I recorded one of my favorite matches against a deck that I hate, which is Spell Boost, and showing me winning with my strats against it. I felt proud of it, and just putting some like video game music in the background. It was just perfection to me. But I'm going to show this off. It's going to be the last thing I'm going to show off. But again, this is my 10-year anniversary video. I'm going to have fun with it. But yeah, let's go ahead and show this one so you can see my strats. Now, the strats for City of Gold. City of Gold is in a card, I believe it's an amulet, that it has no cooldown, so it stays. Whenever I play a what do they call it? Another amulet, it lowers its cooldown by one, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It lowers its cooldown by one. So with I'm playing a class called Havencraft. They play a lot of amulets. They usually have a certain number of turns of cooldown. Once the cooldown happens, either summons a follower or it like does an ability, whatever the case may be. But instead of having to wait 2 or 3 turns, I could potentially get it done in 1 turn or same turn if I have 2 City of Golds in play. And the whole purpose of the deck is to play a bunch of things with Storm that can deal direct damage. It's a super aggro deck, but it has a little bit of a combo to it, and it's kind of cool. So we'll just show it off. Let's do it. Okay, so let me pause it here real quick. So as you can tell, these amulets all cost 1, but I'll eventually be able to play them for free. Now, how I can play City of Gold is if at the end of your turn, if you still have 2 play points not used, it can automatically be played from your deck to the field for free. You don't have to do anything. You just basically on turn 2, you pass, and the card comes into play. So that's how I'm going to force it from the deck into play, which is one of the reasons it was super broken. Now, my opponent does a really good job of trying to stall me out by bouncing it to my hand, because if it's put in my hand, that means I have to hard cast it. But the cost of the card, the casting costs 2. Now the nerf that happened later on made to where the card costed like 3 or 4 or something, which honestly ruined it. And I think its ability to be summoned from the deck had to wait till like turn 3 or 4. They nerfed the card to high hell, which really sucked, because like that was like my main deck in Unlimited that got me to master rank and all that, like Grand Master and all that stuff. But anyway, enough about that. Let's play the video. But what you're going to see here is like, even though they cost 1, they have a cooldown of either 2 or 3. The purpose is to potentially make it 0. Okay, the card in my hand that costs 8. This is a card that's just a follower. It's a creature. It has Storm, which means it can hit directly. Every time I play an Amulet, the cost of that card drops down 1, I think it was. It was 1 or 2, I forget. So if I'm not able to win using the Amulets to get them for Storm damage, I can eventually play that card for free and deal us some Storm, or we call it face damage. But because basically instead of hitting a follower, you're hitting him in the face. So it's called face damage. That was kind of the terminology we use in Shadowverse. But yeah, this is basically what you call a face deck. The deck is basically intended to destroy the character directly and ignore like anything else. You're basically forcing the opponent to stay on defense while you're on offense. That was kind of the point. So as you can tell right here, it has a cooldown of 2, so it's going to take 2 turns for the card to do what it's supposed to do. So that's what Amulets and Havencraft are. But with City of Gold, that'll lower its cooldown whenever I play one, so I can get them faster. And a lot of these Amulets will either draw me a card or play a follower with Storm. That's the whole purpose. So I didn't do nothing. I passed turn, and the card comes into play, City of Gold. Now they bounce it to my hand. Smart play. There's the card with Storm. Now this Amulet gives us someone +1 attack when played. 2 turns, draw a card. So I'm already hitting him in the face. And since I had 2 mana left, City of Gold comes into play automatically. Cooldown dropped by 1, so now it comes out in 1 turn instead of 2. That's what City of Gold does. Of course, they bounce it to my hand again. See, that's the right strat to do against this. Bounce it to my hand. So I have to hard cast it and slow me down. So now I got a hard cast, both of them, and now everything is going to cost 2 less in terms of cooldown. So that 2 is going to go away to a 0, and I'm going to draw a card and give a +1 and hit him in the face after evolving. That's right. Now, as you can tell, you're going to see a lot of 0 cost when they're playing stuff. That's what Spell Boost does. They start playing cards for free after a few turns, and it becomes a pain. But the good news is, because I'm so aggressive, rather than being able to constantly hit me in the face, because that's what they want to do too, they're forced to deal with my followers. Otherwise, I'm going to just OTK them, and they don't want that. They have 0 mana, by the way. So now that I have 2 City of Gold in play, every time I play something, it's going to reduce the Amulet's cooldown by 2. So I basically need to play them like right off the bat. Oh, by the way, storm means they can hit them directly. Unlucky target there because it's random. We hit them in the face. It's all face damage. Face is the place. They're already down to 4. Play for free. Play for 1. They're doing face damage. Played for 2. They're at 0 mana. I'm down to 1 life point, but they can't finish the job, and I end up winning, basically. They gave up. Yeah. And as you can tell, those cards in my hand that used to cost 8 only cost 1, so, you know, next turn, I could have just played them basically for free and continue to deal damage, assuming that they killed my board. Like if they instead of trying to hit me in the face would have like killed both of my followers, which they could have done, they still would have lost because I would have had 8 damage to the face and they wouldn't have been able to take it. They knew that because they probably knew my deck list to a degree and realized there was no way they could win. But yeah, I'm very proud of this one. This was the deck that I was basically like climbing the ranking ladder with, and it was so good until they nerfed City of Gold. Once they nerfed it, the deck literally died by just nerfing 1 card. And what pissed me off the most about Shadowverse is they always nerfed like the decks that I was good with, but Spell Boost, they can do whatever they want. They didn't care. You want to take 3 turns for free? Sure. So they can do like 30,000 damage to you? Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. But a deck that I have that takes effort to actually compete with this, oh no, we're going to nerf that. We can't have you winning with your ideas. F that noise. All right, I'm done complaining. But yeah, that's basically it. I just want to shout out to everybody that's ever subscribed to my channel. Right now we're at 360 subscribers. I'm not going to ask you all to sub and all that. Like that's, if you want to sub, you can. I'm the kind of person that subs to a channel if they constantly make content I care about. So if I'm not the kind of content you care about, I don't expect you to sub because, you know, I'm kind of the same attitude. I only sub if I care about the content or you know, whatever. But I appreciate the 360 supporters that I have. Obviously, I've made over 500 videos in the last 10 years, which to me is kind of crazy. And like I said, I'm happy with the channel overall. And again, this channel is going to be more of a documentary of just my gaming life in general, talking about gacha games and sometimes games on the Nintendo Switch, which, by the way, I bought a Nintendo Switch too, so I might upload a video soon just showing it. I might record on my tablet and just have like the Switch like in view so you can kind of see it and me turn it on and do stuff with it. So that might be a future video. We'll see when that comes up. But yeah, just something I'm very happy about. And again, thanks to everybody who takes the time to watch my videos. I know that what I do is kind of niche and it's very low tech, no editing, stuff like that. But you know, it's what I do, and you know, I enjoy it, and I appreciate those who also watch it too. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Happy 10-year anniversary to me, yay! And we'll see you next time. Later, guys.